today's episode of the Insider Info series, I'm here with Joshua Kaye. He's VP of Legal and Business Affairs at A&E Networks UK. Josh, thank you so much for being our special guest today for our Insider Info series. We are so grateful to have you here. It would be amazing to have a quick introduction from yourself about, what you do and what you've been up to through your career.
Well, thank you for having me, Sam. So, as you say, my name's Josh. I work at AETN, actually AETN EMEA now. So I look after the legal function across Europe, Middle East and Africa. We've got offices in Spain, Italy, Germany, Poland, South Africa. The legal team is now a 7-person legal team. And we look after everything to do with any legal issues for the company as a whole and any of those subsidiaries. We also look after the regulatory and compliance function for the channels across Europe. As a sort of brief introduction to the company, we are a traditional broadcaster. We look after the History Channel, Lifetime, History 2, Crime and Investigation, and a free-to-air channel in the UK called Blaze. It's also a channel in Italy, Blaze, and we, as I say, traditional broadcaster. We put the channels out in all the different territories, and more we're seeing a convergence with our digital products. So we have History Play, CI Play, and those are being rolled out across the territories as well.
So, why did you actually choose to practice within media entertainment law?
That's a really interesting question. I think for everyone out there that's looking to get into media and entertainment, my career has taken a very varied path to get to where I am now. So I worked in private practice in a traditional corporate commercial environment. I worked at a very small firm in the West End. I was looking after, I had seats in litigation, commercial property, corporate commercial. I did a bit of work in matrimonial. So I touched lots of different areas, and I can honestly say in the 2.5 years I was in private practice, I didn't do any media and entertainment at all. I then decided during the course of working in private practice, I'll come back to this later, that it was the commercial side that I wanted to be more involved in. And so I went and looked for jobs in in-house positions. And I worked in corporate hospitality in a small company which ran the receptions across London. So a whole logistical exercise. And they hadn't had a lawyer internally before. So I went to work there for a year where I managed to get all their systems up to date, all their templates up to date, negotiate some of their contracts for them. And after a year of working in-house, I knew that in-house was for me, and my particular areas of interest were sports and media. So that's where I sort of dedicated a lot of my time and energy. And I was lucky enough to get a position in Premiership Rugby. They also hadn't had an in-house lawyer before, so it was a new experience for them and myself. It was a 6-month fixed-term contract where I got a wonderful experience of working with a great group of people, working in sports, a relatively small company. There was only about 20 people there, but just fantastic introduction into sport and into a wonderful working environment. And as I came to the end of that experience, someone that I knew in my network, which is the importance of having a network, called me up and said, I've got this job going at a joint venture with Sky. Would you be interested? And what was a 3-month fixed term contract was now 7 years ago. And I came in as a temp, and I'm now VP of legal for the whole of the European region. So it's been a wonderful experience. So yes, there was an element in my career path where I sort of chose to go down the media and sports path. But before that, it really wasn't something that I was considering, certainly not when I was training and doing my training contract. A lot of people come and ask for advice, how do I go and work in media? How do I go and work in sports? And their whole mindset is dedicated to working in that area. And that is great. And I'll encourage that to a certain extent. the most important thing for any lawyer is that the first step, and I know this sounds really obvious, is be a good lawyer. Focus on being a good lawyer. Don't focus on the sexy stuff, that I've got to work in sport, I've got to work in media. You'd be amazed that actually a lot of the work in sports and media it can be quite boring and not very it can be not very satisfying or glamorous insofar as, you know, complexities and certain areas of law that require a great deal of regulation. So there might be a number of areas that you actually find that you're really interested in that you wouldn't get from media and sports, but you can only come to that conclusion when you start with the widest possible mindset of saying anything. Let's just get a feel for lots of different pieces of law, lots of different areas of law, and I'll find my niche later on down the line. But as you can only find your niche if actually you're really good at the basic stuff. Practice, you know, making sure that you're good at the drafting, you're questioning the commercial realities of any deal that you're doing, making sure that you're really diligent in the work, you know, that you're putting out. They're all really important aspects of being a lawyer that you're going to need in whatever industry.
And what are the then current issues around the convergence between media and technology?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question. That I don't think there are a great deal of, you know, issues that are very specific because of the convergence between media and tech. I think, you know, the same issues exist for media as they do for any other industry that we're looking at the moment. But again, thinking about individuals' right to privacy, the GDPR, Brexit-related issues with regards to licensing and not being part of the EU anymore in the UK. So they're the things that we really need to consider. But I think certainly what we're seeing from a media perspective as we get into the play products and, you know, the digital SVOD, D2C type products, you know, we've got to be really mindful of what data we're collecting on the individuals, making sure that those platforms are really secure insofar as people can't steal the data or they can't hack our systems, making sure that our suppliers are really up to date with the security that they've got in place. So they're the things that we're really thinking about at the moment.
Why did you choose in-house over private practice? For you, what were the key differences between them?
So this is a really personal conversation. So this will change for each individual. For me, I had done a business degree first, then I converted to law. So the commercial side and the business side of law was always something that really interested me. I really wanted to apply the law to commercial deals. That's the bit that really excited me. And when I was in private practice, I found that I was working on small parts of a deal, but I wasn't actually part of the bigger picture. I wasn't part of the deal as a whole. I would just get involved in one small element of it and then not see what the next steps were. Some people love that. Some people like working in that sort of isolated area where they can really zone in on a piece of work that they've been asked to do and hand it over. For me, I really wanted to get involved in the strategy, the strategic thinking behind doing a commercial deal, being able to give a legal opinion on something, but really being able to have that as a backup to really the commercial strategy that we're looking at above. And that's what led me to being in-house, and I love it. But, you know, the key difference is, I mean, there are so many. I think the most important thing to remember when you're going in-house is that the people that you're talking to aren't lawyers generally. So you have to remember that you've got to remember what those people are trying to achieve and what's going to be important to them. So talking to a commercial head about an indemnity and the provisions of an indemnity isn't going to get you much traction with that person. They want to know, what's the commercial deal they're doing? Are you able to protect the company? And what risks do we have open? That's your job. Your job is to worry about the indemnities. Your job is to worry about the boilerplate clauses and all the other provisions in that agreement, and close off all the risks to the company. The other thing is, in terms of risk, you can't close off every risk. When you're in private practice, your whole job is, I'm going to close every single risk that I possibly can, and then go from there. When you're in-house, you don't have time to do that. And you won't have the people at the top level giving you a lot of support if you can't close any contract because there's the tiniest little risk that exists somewhere in there that may or may not happen in the future. So your job really is risk management. What can I live with? What can we get? What can we deal with and accept and have carrying on through this contract that will be an acceptable risk to the business to hold? And what is an absolute red flag? And again, it's the red flags that bring you value. If you're able to tell the management team, these are the things that you really need to worry about. Don't worry about all of the other 100 pages. These are the 4, 5, 6 key red flags that we need to think about.
What experience has actually prepared you for your current role then? And what advice would you give to aspiring lawyers who are currently applying for TCs and vacation schemes?
Well, if I haven't already covered it, I think the key experience is being thrown in at the deep end in private practice of just saying, here are your folders, off you go and speak to your clients and get on with it. When you're working, certainly in a GC position like myself, there's lots of balls in the air at any one time, and anything could fall down at any one time. So you've got to be prepared for a little bit of chaos. You've got to be prepared for the fact that, anything could happen at any time. Anything could come across your desk at any time. Certainly in-house, in private practice, you've got this wonderful protection of, I'm working in the property department, so you're only going to get leases or property related questions across your desk. When you're a GC or working in-house, it can range from property to procurement to a carriage deal to a sponsorship deal to a marketing deal to corporate issues. What your skill as an in-house lawyer is being able to say, okay, this is not my area of expertise. I am a generalist. I'm a general commercial corporate lawyer. I know the basics for lots of different areas of law. I'm confident enough to say now, I am not an expert in employment. I'm not an expert in GDPR, but I know enough to know when I need help and when I need external assistance or when I need someone in my team with a bit more expertise in that particular area. And that again is the real trick to working in-house. What advice would I give to aspiring lawyers? Again, it comes back to the age-old thing that I said at the beginning, which is just focus on being a really good lawyer first. Don't focus so much on, what amazing area of law that I've always aspired to be like some sort of high-flying media or sports lawyer that I've seen in the press. But, all of those people, I assure you, just graft hard first. They graft hard to become really good lawyers. And that's how they get to those positions. And you will pick up clients. Everything else will take care of itself when you know your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So Josh, thank you so much for being guest on our Insider Info series. I'm sure that all our viewers will be so grateful for the insight that you provided, and I'm sure that many of them will take the advice that you've given them as well into their future applications and TC and vacation schemes. So thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you for having me.